What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get in this video, I want to thank a couple of my subs for their donations to the channel. I want to thank Elijah Merritt for his donation to the channel. I'd like to also thank Elijah's been my biggest supporter, and he's been with me since I think he said 2015 or 16. So he's been there for a while. I'd like to thank also LeJonte. I don't want to say your whole government, but I'd like to thank LeJonte. I saw your donation late Thursday. I didn't want to do it on the Danny Aiello video. I didn't think that was the best type of video to do that on. So I want to thank you guys for your donations. I thank everybody that has donated to the channel over the past several months and people who support me on YouTube as well as the Patreon. Now, I want to give a shout out to Ticket TV for his video about Scottie Pippen's comments about James Harden and saying that what he's doing, in his opinion, really means nothing. Now, since then, James Harden had just last night a 54-point game against the Orlando Magic. And these are my thoughts. Some people just look at it as hate, you know, and me and Ticket are haters of James Harden or whatever. I've said before I don't like his game. You know, I don't like his game at all. I think, I understand a scorer has to be selfish. I understand guys do, to an extent, play for their numbers. Some of these guys have financial incentives in their contract, which motivates them to go for their numbers. I remember reading about how Mitch Richmond had a incentive in his contract where he got an additional $500,000 if he was able to jack up at least 1,500 shots a season in a particular season. So these guys do have motivations to be selfish. But James Harden's selfishness is on an entire different level. All right, this isn't coming from hate. This is coming from watching basketball for the past 29 years. I've seen guys who have been accused of being selfish. Michael Jordan was accused of being selfish. In his heyday, this is before I started watching basketball, but at least in his prime, Bernard King was accused of being selfish, as was Adrian Dantley. Kobe Bryant, of course. Allen Iverson. That comes with territory. But at least in Allen Iverson's case, and I believe Allen Iverson holds the record for highest career field goal attempts average. I think he averaged for his career 20. At least he did for a while. Maybe it went down and he wasn't number one at the end, but Iverson averaged 23 shot attempts per game, I think, for his career. Now, mind you, Allen Iverson, 6 feet tall at best. Maybe just 5'11", 5'11 and a half. And for the most part, when he was with the Philadelphia 76ers, he was the only real guy that could put up create his own shot. And the difference between Allen Iverson's 50-point games in that era, that defensive era, as opposed to James Harden, you never got it. Okay, yeah, Allen Iverson would go one-on-one with guys, and but the thing about Allen Iverson's 50-point games, they came against, generally speaking, from my memory, they came against at least upper echelon teams, and he kind of usually did it on the biggest stage. And he usually did it when his team needed him to score like that. Now, don't get me wrong. These guys weren't perfect. They had bad shooting nights. Can't believe you. I remember opening up the newspaper and looking at the box score, because we didn't have social media like that back then. I remember looking at the newspaper and open up the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and looking at the sports page, and I look at the Sixers that might have lost to the Bulls, and I look at Iverson in the box score, like 6 for 30. God damn! Don't get me wrong. These guys had bad shooting nights too. But the thing about Allen Iverson too, he made the players around him better. He made them better. He got guys involved. He wasn't just passing to pad his numbers. When he would make 3 or 4 shots in a row, all right, he would draw the defense to him, and he might see a cutting George Lynch or Aaron McKee the basket, easy bucket. Because he used the fact that he was making shots and used it to his advantage. Instead of shooting over a fall-away jumper over two guys, remember AI's just 6 feet. He, saw someone. He looked for guys who were open, and he would hit them. Because don't remember, in his best years, AI was putting up 30, but he also was averaging 7 or 8 dimes. And these are legitimate dimes, not just cheapies. You know what I'm saying? But Scottie Pippen made a point, man. I agree with Scottie Pippen, man. Like, James Harden, he plays only for his numbers. It can't be fun playing with this version of James Harden. I've said it before, man. James Harden is a better player than what we're seeing, man. The James Harden that we saw under Kevin McHale was a better basketball player. He was a better player, in my opinion. And I would excuse, he played the in-between game. He would, on occasion, even post guys up. He took threes, but not as many. Because Kevin McHale came from an older era. But D'Antoni, I don't know, man. It's just James Harden. It's been the James Harden show. He's had a green light like no other green players had a green light since Wilt Chamberlain. And he's putting up, I think he's averaging, I think he's going for 40. I know that he's trying to break the modern day mark of 37.1 points per game set by Michael Jordan, 86-87 season. But now I think he's literally trying to go for 40. He had a couple of games recently. We only scored like 27, 24 points. So to make up for that, he's putting up like these big games against, I'm not trying to say that the teams he's doing against are poor, but we're talking about the Cavs. And the Magic didn't make the playoffs last year, but they were 8th seed. And we're not talking about the Lakers and the Clippers. So yeah, James Harden is trying to go for his numbers. And I just, if you're cool with that, fine. As long as you acknowledge that he's a selfish player and he's playing for numbers, that's fine. But don't come crying. Come May. Don't come crying come May when this team loses in the playoffs. Because I have them pegged already losing the semis. They're going to lose in the semis. I don't see this team beating either the Clippers or Lakers. So I don't see how they can make it to the championship round. I wouldn't bet on it. You know what I'm saying? Everything's fine and dandy in the playoffs. I mean, during the regular season, when James Harden is shooting 15, 20 free throws. Now, the last couple of games, he hasn't been doing it from the foul line. I'll give him that. The last couple of games, he's been very efficient. I think over the last couple of games, James Harden has shot something like, I want to say 39 for, what is he shooting? 39 for like 65 or something. He's shooting a very high percentage over the last couple of games. I'll give him that. You know what I'm saying? When that step back is working, it can look beautiful. And also that guy was wrong. This is what I'm talking about when they don't really look at, these guys really don't research their numbers. I think Brian Windbag said something like James Harden's 54 points was like the lowest. I think he only shot like 5 free throws in that game. Well, the 55-point game. I think he said he only shot like 5 free throws in that game. And he said that was like the fewest free throws for any player to score 50 points in like the last 40 years or something like that. And then I was thinking to myself, I said, no, that can't be right. That can't be right because back in the 2000-2001 season, Tony Delk scored 53 points. I don't think he shot a free throw. I think he shot like 23 or 27. I think it was all jumpers, some threes and jumpers. So these guys don't really do their research. They're very fucking lazy. You know, at least back in the day, these guys, you know they would have their shit. This post-Stuart Scott era, these dudes are some lazy fucking guys. And not only that, some of these dudes just flat out lie. That's why I don't like guys like Brian Windbag, Nick Wrong. He's the worst. You know, Chris Broussard with his fake sources. These guys fucking lie, man. I'm telling you, I'm not just blowing smoke on my ass. These dudes are lying to you. They make up lies. I hear these guys lie all the time. I mean, you look at the numbers. Over the past 4 years, Kawhi Leonard has not shot above 45% from the floor. Yeah, I just looked it up. What? He shot 50% for the last two. So what are you talking about? Fucking lying, man. Just lie. I'm exaggerating with that point, but these guys do come out, they lie. Nick Wright made up that shit a couple months ago saying that they conspired to take away the MVP award from LeBron in 2015 and give it to Iggy. That was a total fucking lie. This guy it's two things with Nick Wrong. He's either being paid by somebody to just go above and beyond, or he's forgot where I was for a second. He's the word that rhymes with maggot. Too raw for TV, baby. But to talk about this pace thing that Scottie Pippen was talking about, he has got a good point. They were talking about pace. Now, I don't think Scottie Pippen could average 40 points in today's NBA. And the reason why I feel like that is Scottie wasn't, a selfish guy. He wasn't a guy like to take a lot of shots. I think the most shots that he's ever attempted in the game was 35. The only time he really took a lot of shots, generally speaking, is when he had his shot rope. When his shot was falling, that's when he would take a lot of shots. Okay. I think the game where he scored 47, he took 28 shots in that game. And the game where he had 43 points in the 90-91 season, I think it was against the Charlotte. I think 16 or 17 on the floor in that game. So Scottie was a perfect complementary player to Jordan because he kind of deferred on offense to Jordan. Jordan had more of the scorer's mentality. But Scottie could fill it up when he was, when he had it going or whatever. But the length Scottie Pippen had, remember those vicious dunks he had? He could just, it's like Scottie would have these sneaky dunks sometimes. Like, you would think Scottie wasn't close enough to the basket to pull off those jams. But because of the length that he had, I remember he had this nasty fucking dunk one time, man. I think it was that 55-point game that Jordan had on his first comeback. And he had a nasty dunk in that game, man. I'm trying to remember who was against, man. It might have been, was Buck Williams there yet? I can't remember who the hell it was against. But it was a nasty damn jam, man. And I don't know, man, but I think definitely Scottie Pippen could average, with the extra possessions that we have now in today's NBA, I could see him averaging like 28, 29, maybe 30. You know what I'm saying? The way that the game is played, defenses are more lax. At least the rules are, so offensive players have an easier time, getting to the basket. And the way that Scottie was a slasher, could hit the outside shot. I remember one of Scottie's bread and butter was the shot off the glass. Yeah, I could see Scottie putting up like 27 to 30 points per game, easy. But I've always made this point, and they made this point. They said that the best scoring season when you account for pace in NBA history was the 35.4 points per game that Kobe Bryant averaged in the 2005-2006 season. And I got to agree with that. Because the team average, the league average, excuse me, at that time was 97 points per game. That was the league average. That's when they just were starting to open up basketball. This is that's when they created these dramatic rule changes, which would slowly change the league from a half court orientated defensive, you know, heavy game, just right at the mouse in the palace, to making it a more free flowing, high octane offensive perimeter orientated game. All right. And the league average went from 93 the year before to 97. But nowadays, the league average is like 111, 112, 113 points. So, what Kobe did that year was remarkable. When Jordan averages 37.1 points per game, I think the Bulls averaged 108 points that year. So, yeah, what Kobe Bryant did that year was truly remarkable. When Wilt was putting up 45, 50 points per game, the Warriors were averaging like 118, 120 points. So you really have to take these things. You have to really look at these numbers. I advise anybody that really wants to study, it's not all about numbers, but you really have to look deeper in eras to kind of get me, to understand where I'm coming from. If you look at these numbers, right, and you look at how many points per game teams were averaging in the 60s, and then you compare that to what teams were averaging in the late 90s, 97 through the early 2000s, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll be like, damn, I see what True Raw's talking about. Look at this shit. Like, the Warriors were averaging 122 points per game this season. But look at these teams. Man, they was only averaging 89 points per game. But so-and-so, even though they were only averaging 89 points, he was averaging 27. Imagine what the fuck he would average today when the league averages 112, 113 points. That's my point. You got to take pace into account. You got to take the number of possessions these guys are having. Yeah, true, minutes are down for the late 90s, but you have to offset that with the pace. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, guys only playing 34, 35 minutes a game as opposed to 37, 38, 39, but the pace is so much faster. So these guys are still getting in more possessions. And that's why basketball sometimes is a little bit, when you look at comparing guys, it's almost a scientific way of looking at this shit. It's just that sometimes these guys go too far with the metrics. You know what I'm saying? You still have to use the eye test, in my opinion, to also gauge these guys. But look, I'm not saying James Harden isn't a great player. None of us are saying that he's not a great player, but he's better than what he's doing. Because come playoff time, what's going to happen, you know, officiating gets a lot more heavily scrutinized in the playoffs. That's part of it. So the refs become a lot less willing to blow the whistle because they don't want to be blamed for why Team A lost to Team B. So unless it's blatant, they're not going to blow it. So, if James Harden was coming in averaging 15 free throw attempts a game, in the playoffs it might go down to 7 or 8 or 9. And that'll be just enough as they go further in the playoffs to prevent them from winning. And then if you're going up against better teams, the defenses are better. You know what I'm saying? His shooting percentage might be lower. And instead of James Harden putting up 40, he might score 27. And people be like, well, but James still had 27. Yeah, but look what he did in the regular season. He averaged 40. But he only averaged 27 in his playoff run. And that's where the criticisms come in. And I'm sorry, but that's what it is. That's how it was with Wilt Chamberlain. The year that Wilt averaged 50, in the playoffs he averaged, I think, 32 or 35. I think it might have been 35. Now you say, like, look, Wilt still averaged 35. Yeah, but in the regular season he averaged 50. That's just how it is, man. Kareem. Not Kareem. I want to use Hakeem. Hakeem. Olajuwon. Regular season, 26 points a game, 27 points per game. In the playoffs, boom, he might up it to 30. Finals, 32. His level of play went up dramatically. Jordan might average 30 in the regular season. Playoffs, 35. Finals, 38, 40. That's why he's looked at a certain way. That's why those guys are looked at a certain way, and as great as Wilt is, that's why he's looked at a different level in some ways. You know what I'm saying? That's what James Harden is headed for. He's headed for being a player who's going to put up all these astronomical numbers during the regular season, like Wilt Chamberlain. But when it matters the most in the playoffs, he's going to fall short. And that's why I'm looking more and more at James Harden as being on that Wilt Chamberlain type stratosphere when it all's said and done. He's going to have a lot of records because he's at 23 career 50-point games right now. Kobe Bryant had 25 if you include the playoffs, right? So with 3 more 50-point performances, he's going to pass Kobe Bryant in 50-point games. Does that make him a better scorer? I don't think so. But the media's going to spin like that. Guys, I'm Chris Broussard, and I'm just saying, Kobe Bryant played in 1,200 regular season games, and he had 25 50-point games, including the playoffs, actually. That was that 50-point game against Phoenix Suns. So if you include playoffs, it's 25 50-point games. Now, James Harden, according to my sources, already has 25 50-point games. He's played in far fewer games. Plus, Kobe's never averaged 40. So, I mean, James Harden has his case to be the greatest scorer, even better than Kobe. And we know that he's not a better scorer than Kobe. But that's how these guys are, man. These guys are paid shields to push the product, which is the NBA. But that's where he's headed, man. He's going to have all these numbers and records, but at the end of the day, unless he dramatically changes his game, and I don't think so because he's already 30 years old, he's going to go down as a Wilt Chamberlain type guy, man. That's just how I feel, man. Tell me what you guys think.